We are going Asian today in the sartorial kitchen. That's right, I'm kicking things off with a classic hot and sour soup. Then it's my honey orange glazed chicken over white rice. And last but not least, dessert time, pear stuffed wontons. So why don't you pull up a chair and dine with me?
Welcome back, everybody. Yes, we are going Asian today in the kitchen. I have a fun, exciting menu planned. Chinese is like one of my favorite cuisines, and I hardly ever get it unless I'm doing takeout. But today I'm taking myself out, and we're kicking things off with my hot and sour soup. So I've already got my pan going there with just a little bit of oil, just letting it get nice and hot. I want to get a nice sear on these veggies here. I've got some mushrooms and some green onions. And if you're not familiar with hot and sour soup, it's similar to a egg drop soup, which I made back in season 4, where you cook the eggs in a broth, but this has some veggies in it too, so it's a little heartier. It's going to be nice and flavorful. So I just rinsed these mushrooms off in the sink. They like to get a lot of dirt and things on it. They're kind of earthy, which is not so good. And this is just about half a container. I don't need too many. And we'll go ahead and throw these into our skillet. Ooh, listen to that sizzle. Love it. And now for the scallions. I need 2 parts to the scallions. I need the whites and I need the greens. So the whites I want to actually be in the soup, and then the greens I'm going to save for a garnish. I'm just going to come through here and just give it a little dice. Not too big, just nice little pieces so we can, they'll eat the same and they'll cook the same. And I just go about halfway up. Alright, that should be pretty good. And then we'll come to the other side here. I like to trim off the ends, and I like to trim off the tops where they're a little kind of messy. And then you just come in here and give this a little slice as well. And this is just for garnish, so we only need just a little bit. I like to throw it on at the end just to give a nice little presentation. I think that's pretty good. Alright. And our scallions go right in. Beautiful. Alright, I'm going to add just a little more oil. These mushrooms are thirsty. They're basically like a sponge, which is why I like them so much, because they can take on just about any flavor you give them. I'm just going to throw in just a little more oil. I don't want these to stick. I want them to get nice and caramelized. I'm just going to stir this around. I want all the vegetables to be coated so they cook through. Then once they cook down, we'll deglaze the pan with our rice wine vinegar. We'll add our other flavors, and that is basically it. Add the stock, get the eggs going, and there you have it. Alright, while those veggies cook down, I'm going to go ahead and start prepping my eggs. I'm going to do them in a little container here. Basically, we're just going to scramble the egg. And then once our broth is boiling, you pour the eggs in last and just kind of stir them in until they scramble. You get nice little strands, almost like pasta kind of. It's just a really easy way to add some flavor and kind of thicken up the soup. So I've got my eggs. We're going to season our eggs a little bit with some salt and a little pepper. I like to season in layers. I'm also going to get my veggies a little bit. Now, normally I would season my veggies right away, but with mushrooms, I like to wait a second. Because those mushrooms, they hold a lot of moisture. And I kind of want to let them get a little brown on them before I season them too heavily. And they're starting to smell amazing, amazing, amazing. And I'm just going to add a few other things to our eggs here. And this is going to give us some nice flavors here. So they call this hot and sour soup because it's spicy, a little bit. And sour because of the vinegar. So I'm going to throw a little sriracha here in my eggs. About a half a teaspoon. I'm a spice wimp, so I'm not going to get too heavy on this. And we just need to stir these up. And then what I like is the eggs get kind of this orangish color. The red from the sriracha and the yellow at the yolks. So it's going to give our soup like a really nice contrast here. Alright, that's good. We'll set that aside. Alright, now let's zhuzh up the veggies. Alright, you can see those veggies have cooked down nicely. I'm going to go ahead and lower the heat just a smidge. Those mushrooms are beautiful and caramelized and nice and soft. Now we're going to come in here and flavor up everything. So first, I'm going to take some of our rice wine vinegar and we're going to deglaze the pan. Get all those brown bits up. So I just want like a couple tablespoons of that. And that's where the sour comes in for the hot and sour soup. And I'm just going to stir that around. Just take my spoon and get that up. Ooh, and as soon as that vinegar hits the hot pan, ooh, very aromatic. Alright, I've also got some garlic paste here. I'm going to do about a teaspoon of that. I've got some ginger. We're going to do about half a teaspoon of the ginger. It's a little stronger than the garlic. That's also going to give us some heat. Then I've got some chili oil here. Also going to bring some a little sweet heat. Yeah, I think I want about a tablespoon of that. And it's got the seeds and everything in it, so it's going to be very flavorful. And then some soy sauce. And I want just a couple tablespoons of that. Should be good. I'm just going to stir that around. And we're going to let that reduce a little bit, let those flavors marry. And as you can see, the mushrooms are just drinking that up. And that's going to be nice and flavorful for later on. Okay, so I just let that bubble away for a few minutes. Now we are ready for our beef broth. So I'm just using one small container of beef broth. I'm going to pour that right in. And as you can see, this soup comes together very quickly. So I've got the beef broth, and then I'm going to stretch that out. I'm going to throw some water in here. About half the container. That's pretty good. And then we're just going to let this come to a boil. As soon as it does, we throw in our eggs, and we'll be ready to go. Alright, let's talk rice. I've made rice several times before on this channel. It's just the perfect side and it's so easy to set up. So I've got my little cup measure here. I want some leftovers. There's going to be plenty of this meal. So I'm measuring out 2 cups of rice. And here's the trick to rice. You either use too much liquid or never enough. You get pasty rice or real gummy, sticky, hard rice. So here's the trick. You really only need enough liquid to cover the rice. So it has all these measurements inside here. I don't even fuss with that. I start with some cold tap water, and I just pour enough in here, just enough to lightly cover the rice. And then take my hands in here, swirl the rice around, kind of get that starch activated. See, the rice drinks up the water and then gets nice and fluffy. If you add too much water, it doesn't know, and it's going to drink that water still. And then that's when you get that really clumpy, sticky rice. And if you don't add enough water, then you have hard rice. So this is perfect here. And people talk about rinsing rice and all that. You don't have to go to all that trouble. You really don't. If you're using like a fine sushi grade rice, something like that. Otherwise, just set it and forget it. And that's why I love the rice cooker. It does all the work for you. You just put it in, tell it what kind of rice you're making, and that's it. Takes about 30 or so minutes, and it'll count down for you. When it gets to about 10, you'll know when it's ready to go. I'm going to put this up, and we'll finish our soup. Alright guys, time for the magic. As you can see, this is bubbling nicely. So I'm going to turn it down to low, and we're going to swirl those eggs right in. Woo! Nice. And then we're going to come in here and stir this immediately. And as you can see, the eggs have changed the color of our soup. I just want to stir vigorously. I don't want the eggs to all clump together and cook in one big mass. And that broth is hot enough that those eggs will cook immediately. And as you can see, you get like nice little strands of egg. Just takes about a minute or two, if that tops. And we are ready to dig in. I'm going to pull this off the heat. Take about our little whisk here. And hello to my serving bowl. And just come in here, get a nice ladle full of the soup. Oh, it's so good. You can smell all those wonderful flavors. And we'll garnish with a little of our green onion. And there you have it, hot and sour soup. Now let's just come in here and give it a little taste, shall we? Ooh, yes. Okay, so plenty of heat, and that's coming from me. I also get some nice bits of salt, plenty of salt. The eggs just have a nice texture. The mushrooms are nice and meaty. You get a little sour from the rice wine vinegar. It's just enough just to give it something different. Very flavorful though. Amazing. Alright, I'm going to clean up the soup and we'll move on to our honey orange stir-fried chicken. So stay tuned. Man, that soup was delicious, guys. I hated to put it down, but we're moving on to the main course now. It is my honey orange glazed stir-fried chicken over white rice, which is going now. It's got about 10 minutes left or so. Now I've got an orange here. I'm zesting this orange, and you're thinking, why? Well, for one, I always zest my citrus. Waste not, want not. I'm going to throw this citrus zest into our rice and just make it nice and fragrant. It's going to bloom nicely. I've also got my wok going with a little oil in there. That's going to be the base of our sauce. This is the easiest stir-fry chicken recipe. You just have a few ingredients here, and you get that going until it's nice and saucy, and then you throw in your chicken and just stir it around and let the chicken get nice and coated in the sauce, and you're good to go. I think this is good. On the orange, the oil's nice and hot. That's the base of our sauce. And I'm just going to come in here with a few different things here. I've got some more of the chili oil. I'm only going to do about a teaspoon this time, just to give it a little something, but not too much. And then I've got some oyster sauce. I also want about a tablespoon of that. I'm going to turn this down a little bit. It sizzling pretty good. Sesame oil, just a couple dashes. It's really strong. And some soy sauce. About a tablespoon of the soy sauce. And I'm going to zhush this around. That's already smelling good and flavorful. Now to sweeten this up, I've got some honey. About a couple tablespoons of honey. It's going to add some sweetness. It's also going to help our sauce cling to the chicken. And then of course our orange. I'm just going to cut this in half and double fist it just right into there. As you can see, that's reduced a little, nice and caramelized. I'm going to take my chicken here. This is frozen diced chicken from GFS. You're thinking frozen chicken? Well, here's the thing. This chicken's already cooked. It's already been cubed for me. I leave it frozen because it can cook without, it can come to temperature without overcooking and getting dry. I'm only going to do about half of this container. That makes pretty much chicken. And then see what it does is then you can stir it. You have time for your sauce to cook to this chicken and let those flavors really develop before the chicken becomes overcooked. And as you can see here, it's getting really nice and caramelized. And that sauce that we've developed, and this is a really quick sauce, and it only took me about 5 minutes to throw this together. So it's just a really quick meal. You work late, you come home, you need to feed the family. Rice cooker does all the work. Throw your chicken in here. If you want, you can get a bag of like mixed vegetables, turn it into a huge meal, but since I already made the soup, I figured this would be enough. And as you can see, it's already kind of softened and it's just beautiful. We can kind of turn that down to a simmer and just let that chicken continue to come up to heat. In the meantime, I think our rice is ready. Alright, I was right, our rice has gone off. Ooh, look at this. Nice and fluffy. I just come in here with a fork and just kind of fluff that up. Get at the bottom too. Isn't that beautiful? So we're going to throw our orange zest in here real quick. Just kind of spread that out. And as soon as that zest hits the hot rice, it just becomes nice and fragrant. And I'm just gonna stir that in real good. You could do fried rice if you want. You could add some different things to this, but I want the chicken to kind of be the star here. And the rice is just kind of an accompaniment. That looks beautiful. Alright, let's plate up. Alright, let's grab some of the rice here. Looks pretty good. I'm going to turn this off. I think it's good to go. I'm just going to plate some of that right on top. Beautiful. And there we have it. Does that not look good or what? So I'm just going to come in here and get one nice bite of everything. Okay. Rice is perfect. It's got just a little al dente to it. And that chicken. What I love about doing the chicken that way, it stays nice and moist and juicy. You get just enough of that seasoning on the outside. So good. Alright. I'm going to finish this up and have one more dish for you. A sweet take on egg rolls. So stay tuned. Alright, welcome back. I'm just finishing up some pears here. My tree did really good this year and I got some nice juicy pears out of the garden. I've already got some sizzling in my skillet. I just sliced these in half and cut out the middles. And then I'm just kind of slicing these lengthwise. You could dice them if you want, but I want to kind of mimic the cabbage that you normally get in an egg roll, so I want to have that same kind of consistency. And we're just going to dump these right in with the rest of our pears. Now I've got a little juice left in these oranges from earlier, so I'm going to give those a little squeeze. It's going to add some nice tartness and really help our pears reduce. Now time to season these up. I've got some brown sugar here. I want a couple tablespoons. Just kind of eyeball that. I'm going to stick with our Asian theme, a little 5 spice here. Got some nice things in it, some fennel and cinnamon and different things. And I also want a little butter, a couple tablespoons of that. It's going to really help our sauce come together and really cling to these. Make sure they're nice and flavorful. And I'm just going to come in here, stir everything around, let that butter melt. The sauce is going to come together and it's going to cling to our pears. And just make them nice and flavorful. Okay, while those pears continue to reduce, I'm going to start prepping my wonton wrappers. So it's basically going to be similar like a turnover, where we're going to have that classic egg roll shape. I'm just going to lay these out. I've already prepared a little egg wash, which is just egg and a little water. That's going to be the glue that's going to hold these shut. And then I've got my wok here with just a little bit of oil that's going to fry these babies up nice and crisp. I'm going to cut through the sweetness here. I'm going to throw in just a little salt. I like to do it at the end. It's just going to ensure that these aren't too sweet. And I just let it cook down till it's really nice and syrupy. And we can actually turn that off, I think, and just let it go on low. And then I'm just going to take some of our filling, try not to get too much sauce, and just in the middle there, nice like. And I'm just come in here with some clean hands, and I just take my fingers, go around the edges, and just, I kind of fold it in half, and then you get like the corners. And then just come in here tightly and roll it up. Make sure you have a nice seal on here so that liquid doesn't ooze out or you're going to have a mess. Alright, and that one's ready. We'll move on to the rest of it. So those are all assembled. Ended up getting about 9. I could have probably diced up another pear. Maybe got a few more out of it, but this will be just fine. I've already got my wok going with some oil in it on a medium heat. And then we're just going to, I think 2 at a time will fit on here. And just drop them in. And that's just a shallow fry. I don't need too much oil for this, just enough for it to get coated on all sides. And they're just going to cook for about a couple minutes on each side. The pear's already cooked, so really you just need the outside to get nice and crispy, and that's it. Alright, let's turn these babies over. Ooh, yes! Look at that beautiful crust on the outside. That's perfect. They're sealed nice and tight, so you don't have to worry about any of that sticky brown sugar butter getting out. We're just going to let them cool on the other side, and we'll be good to go. Alright, these look pretty good. I'm going to go ahead and take them out. Yeah, nice and golden on both sides. The wonton wrappers are pretty thin. So they really don't take all that long to cook through. And then I've just got about 4 more to cook off, and we'll be ready to taste. Alright, I just turned those over. These have cooled down just enough, I think I can go ahead and give it a taste. Listen to that crunch. Nice and crispy. And you have that gooey filling on the inside. So good. Well, I'm going to finish up here, but I thank you again for joining me in the kitchen. As always, like and subscribe, hit me up in the comment section, and until next time, bon appetit.